tales can come true. It can happen to you if you are one of the young at heart. Hello, everybody. How you doing? I hope you are one of the young of heart. It's the only way to be in life. I'm telling you, folks, it's just, it just makes things go a lot more, how should we say, like smooth jazz in your life. For those of you who like smooth jazz. Hello, Susie Q. Hello, Lois. Cajun Queen Tarot. David Barry, 75. Wasn't that a good time? And Big Al is in the house on Friday. Absolutely enjoyed that immensely. Robert V. Hello. Calvin, what's up? Let's see. That's targeted in Ireland. Good day, sir. Bella, hello. Hadley, how are you doing? Hello, Belanca. Good to see you. Free Thinking Truth Seeker. Greetings. Twisted Isby. Peace. Far Out. Love the handle. Stormy, 4 Wolves 44. How you doing, my dear? Gaza, good to see you. Diana, hello. Pamela. B3, Loretta. There's a song about you. Regina, hello. Richard and Dragon Soul Fox. Love that one. Infinite Frequency 6111. How are you doing? Think agape love always and forever. Julie Ann Payne, our resident alchemist and poet. How are you doing? David Castle, good to see you, buddy. John Price, hello. How are you doing? Mojo, don't we all need more? So good to see ya. Anyway, just invoking great favor upon us all and peace of mind. That peace of mind that surpasses all understanding, that keeps you level no matter what. Yeah. And you don't even have to take a drug for that. How about that, eh? All right. Listen, I want to get right to the discussion point and kind of have a little bit of a back end discussion, everyone in the chat room and what have you. So I just, check the headlines before coming on here. And folks, this is getting out of control. It literally is. And someone has to come in with a voice of sanity in the midst of this insanity, because this is getting out of hand. Listen, we were at Costco yesterday, and you can't buy toilet paper. You can't buy paper towels. You can't buy much in the, medical section, where all the drugs are at and what have you. Things are starting to get out of hand. Hoarding is beginning to take place. You're going to see price gouging. And this is all a hype. And I'm going to present the numbers according to the following sources: cdc.gov, medicalmd.com, the American Lung Association.org. There is, and if there's other sources, you will see them. So let's get right into this and stop this insanity, folks, because this is getting out of control. All right. So these are just the facts. No hype here. Let's get into this. The hype. And I've positioned this, the flu/common cold, which are two different variant groups, versus the coronavirus, which is a part of the common cold variant group, just so we know where we stand. This is according to the CDC as of 9 o'clock this morning. The CDC estimates that as many as 56,000 people die from the flu or flu-like illnesses each year in the United States. That's 56,000. All right, let's keep this in context. Remember the numbers here. Now, the source for this was the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease under their article, Common Cold. Most humans have contracted the coronavirus multiple times in their lifetimes and did not die. All right, so these numbers, again, according to the cdc.gov, as of 9 o'clock this morning. The flu season, there is a season for 2019 and 2020, the CDC. So far, this flu season infected 32 to 45 million Americans. These are only USA numbers, and the CDC do say as a point of reference that these are estimates. Hospitalized this flu season, 310,000 plus. Again, these are U.S. citizens only. Estimated numbers. Deaths. So far this flu season, there have been 18,000 plus deaths in the United States only. Infant deaths, 125. And what's really interesting, this is the highest pediatric number ever. And these numbers include influenza A and B. All right. Now, I can tell you, no, they're all hyping this. No one is using the counter to any of it. It tells me that Fox News in Denver, Channel 9 in Denver, Channel 2 in Denver are just shrills. They're not journalists. Because if they were journalists, someone would have had the common sense to go, well, maybe we ought to put some balance to this. No, they love the panic. Coronavirus 2020 USA. As of 9 o'clock Mountain Standard Time this morning, 23 cases, 2 deaths, 9 new presumed infections. Now, did you get that? 23 cases, 2 deaths, 9 new presumed infections. And by the way, the U.S. has a population of 327 million. Would you like to do the math on that? And let's talk about what the true percentages are. No one in Denver, no reputable news station has bothered to take the inkling of looking up these facts. Amazing what journalists, how lazy they have become. So let's put this in perspective. The United States flu season goes from October 1st to April 30th. So far, this flu season, it is averaging 5 deaths every single hour. Every 12 minutes, a death is happening in the United States because of influenza. We ain't hearing this, are we? Now, according to WebMD, 10,000 people a day are estimated are to be infected daily. In the average flu season, 10,000 a day. Now, the CDC is reporting that a second strain of influenza A is now infecting millions of Americans, many who had been previously infected by influenza B. Not hearing this, are we? Accordingly, another estimated 25,000 deaths are expected in the United States. And putting this in perspective, this would be a low year to what the average deaths are to be expected in the United States with influenza of a particular strain. Current levels of influenza have already infected nearly 22% of the population of the United States. Not hearing this, are we? Why? Because when you would look at this coronavirus, you're going, well, what's the big deal here? More people are catching meningitis, which, trust me, as a victim of it, it'll kill you or try its best. All right. Now, the CDC uses an infection grading scale, 0 being chances are you're not going to get anything, 10 that if you get close to it, it's probably going to catch it. You're going to get it. So for flu, it's on the scale 0 to 1, relatively low. For the rhinovirus, the common cold / coronavirus, the scale is 1 to 2 of you actually becoming infected. Herpes is rated 6. Watch who you kiss. SARS was a 10. Put it in perspective. Stop the noise. Let's bring it down to reality. Let's all get a grip here, news medias. Let's get our heads out of our proverbial butts and let's start looking at this rationally. They can do their own homework, fact check me, be fun. Now, what is the common cold? I asked people yesterday in the midst of this freaking panic, do you know what the common cold is? Can you describe it? Well, no, but, yeah, well, all right. So let's get factual. Let's get factual, baby. All right. The common cold is an acute infection of the throat and nasal passages. It may be caused by several different viruses, the most common of which are rhinoviruses. The term common cold refers to a set of symptoms rather than a specific disease. Mild influenza may have similar symptoms to the common cold. Mild strep throat, which is caused by bacteria, may be incorrectly classified as a common cold, though usually it is easy for a doctor to distinguish between the two. I was a carrier of strep throat as a child. I had to leave school for 2 weeks. Helping this? All right. Common cold versus viruses may be spread by the following. Contact transmission. People infected with the virus touch their mouths, nose or ears, the mucous membranes, or cough or sneeze into their hands before touching someone else's. Direct contact transmission. Hey, how you doing, Joe? Let me give you a hug, baby. Or touching a common surface. Indirect contact transmission. Cold viruses may remain alive on the skin for 2 hours and on other surfaces such as bench tops for several hours. Droplet transmission. Small particles of the virus are coughed or sneezed into the air, where it lingers before spreading to others. And large particles of the virus are coughed or sneezed into the air and directly spread to the mucous membranes of others. Sitting in a movie theater, the idiot could be on the other side who's infected with either influenza or a variant of the rhinovirus. And you'd be surprised how potentially quickly that can spread in a very closed environment, even with air exchangers, which they don't typically filter out viruses. Statistics, on common cold. The cold is the most common acute illness within the industrialized world. On average, young children develop 6 to 8 colds per year, and adults have 2 to 4 colds per year. The number of the colds increase rapidly throughout the autumn months, remains high during winter, and decreases during spring. Colds occur more commonly during the rainy season in tropical areas. In the U.S., the common cold results in 20 million days of absences from work and 22 million days of absences from school each year. And you can do the math of what that works out. 25 million people visit a general practitioner with uncomplicated upper respiratory tract infections each year. No one's putting this in the perspective that it needs to be. We'll discuss maybe why. Now, risk factors for common colds. Age. The younger you are, the more likely you are to develop a cold. Gender. Boys seem to develop respiratory infections more commonly than girls during the first years of life. However, in later years, girls seem to develop more respiratory infections than boys. Occupation. Women who work full-time in the home are more at risk of developing colds than those who work outside the home, probably because they have a greater exposure to children who are greater numbers of colds. We all know if you've got a 2, 3-year-old, 4, 5, 6-year-old, you've got yourself an incubation, virus hatchery. And even if you're visiting over, the grandkids or a friend's house, if the youngin's got a virus, yeah, it's spreading it all over the place. It's just what humans do. Daycare. Attendance at daycare facilities is a risk factor for developing respiratory illness. The risk increases where there are greater number of children in the group. You're not hearing this on the news, are you? Why? Because it tones this thing way down. People stop and think, well, what's going on here? All you morons who bought a year's worth of toilet paper. Previous infections. A higher frequency of infections in preschool years may lower the frequency of infection in school years. Build up antibodies, right? Genetics. Some people may have a genetic predisposition to developing the common cold, although more research is needed to understand how this occurs. Stress. Psychological stress increases susceptibility to contracting a cold. The greater the stress, the higher the chance a person will catch a cold. Physical activity. Here's a shocker. Heavy physical exercise increases risk of respiratory infections, while moderate activity may decrease the risk. All of you who go to work out into a gym, yeah. Progression of a common cold. Remember, if you're hearing and reading the headlines, we're in a freaking pandemic here. Wait a minute. The numbers don't support any of the hype. But let's continue because we want the facts. In most cases, a common cold is a mild, self-limiting illness lasting up to 1.5 weeks. Each of the viruses that cause the common cold has a slightly different progression. Rhinovirus is spread through the viral particles entering the nose or the eye and spreading to the nose and throat. The virus multiplies rapidly in the cell linings of the nose and throat. New baby virus particles are then released by those cells known as shedding. A person is infectious while they are shedding baby viruses. Why isn't this being discussed? Why? Because it educates people instead of making them lemmings. Let's continue. The dose of virus required to cause infection is low. Infection will occur in 95% of people who have virus deposited in their nose. However, symptoms, clinical illness, only occurs in 75% of infected individuals. Shedding of rhinovirus peaks on the second day after the virus is deposited in the nose, followed by rapid decline. Small amounts of the rhinovirus may be present in nasal secretions up to 3 weeks after infection, which in theory suggests the person may still be able to spread the infection. Most people are no longer infectious once their symptoms are gone in 7 to 10 days. Common factual sense. We continue. The time between contracting the virus and showing symptoms, that's in the incubation period, varies considerably depending on the type of virus causing the cold. In rhinovirus infections, symptoms may occur 10 to 12 hours after catching the virus. The incubation period for influenza virus is 1 to 7 days. The severity of cold symptoms increases rapidly after infection, peaking within 2 to 3 days. The average duration of common cold symptoms is 7 to 10 days, though symptoms may be present for up to 3 weeks. In most cases, the common cold is a mild, self-limiting illness, although complications may occur. And yes, people do die from the common cold. You're not hearing that either, are you? Now, symptoms of common colds. The symptoms of the common cold vary depending on which virus causes the infection, as well as the age and general health of the person who is infected. Symptoms usually occur 24 to 72 hours after infection. The first symptom is usually a sore or scratchy throat, followed soon by a nasal stuffiness and discharge, the runny nose, sneezing, and coughing. The throat is usually only sore for a brief time. The cough symptoms are usually worse on the 4th or 5th day of illness, while the nose symptoms improve. The nasal discharge is initially watery and becomes thicker and yellowish. This does not necessarily indicate a bacterial infection. The cold syndrome may include other symptoms, including headache, tiredness, hoarseness, conjunctivitis, occasional muscle aches. Symptoms generally last for 7 to 10 days. Cough may continue for up to 4 weeks. Compared with influenza, colds only rarely result in fever in adults. However, in children, fever is commonly associated with any upper respiratory tract infection. Influenza infection is far more likely to result in high fever, muscle aches, and headaches than a cold, and less likely to be associated with a runny or stuffy nose. Medications. There are hundreds of different over-the-counter cold preparations available. Many are principally designed to treat the nasal stuffiness and discharge, which are often the most tiresome symptoms of the common cold. There is not a lot of evidence that these medications work. Decongestants taken as a nasal spray or as a tablet may be used to reduce nasal stuffiness. Certain antihistamines may reduce sneezing and runny nose. Antihistamines alone are not an effective treatment for the common cold. In combination with decongestants, antihistamines may lead to some relief from a blocked or runny nose. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, NSAIDs, such as ibuprofen, may be used to reduce fever and sore throat associated with the common cold, and may also have a beneficial effect on cough. Transnasal iprapropium the nasal spray, may play a role in reducing your runny nose. Cough medications are not particularly useful for the common cold, though they may be appropriate in some instances when the cough is persistent. Intransnasal or oral steroids have not shown a clinical benefit in the treatment of the common cold. Antiviral medications such as Relenza and Tamiflu may be used effectively to treat certain patients with influenza. They are not used to treat the common cold because they are expensive, have side effects, and are likely to have only a small impact on symptoms. Antibiotics are designed to treat bacterial infections, not viral, and as such do not have a role to play in the treatment of the viruses that lead to an uncomplicated common cold. Antibiotics have not been found to shorten the length of the common cold, and they do not reduce the likelihood of secondary bacterial infection. Supplements. Zinc has been proposed to reduce the severity and duration of colds, but its efficiency has not been proven in good clinical trials. Echinacea. It's used widely to shorten the length or decrease the severity of symptoms of the common cold. The preparations of this drug vary greatly, and there is limited evidence of its efficiency for shortening or decreasing severity of symptoms or for preventing colds. Some trials have suggested that at certain preparations of echinacea, such as those based on the species, the Echinacea prepara, might be effective in reducing cold symptoms and length in adults. Side effects are infrequent, though rashes have been reported in some children. But they're saying it does work. Vitamin C. The use of vitamin C to treat or prevent the common cold has been popular for some time. One study with 11,350 participants tested doses of at least 0.2 grams per day of vitamin C and found that regularly taking vitamin C did not reduce the likelihood of catching a cold. Some trials found a significant reduction in the risk of common cold in participants exposed to short periods of extreme physical or cold stress, such as marathon running and skiing, with administration of vitamin C. So what are they saying? In that case, it does? What? Is there because of the increased adrenaline? I mean, what, I don't know. I'm just reading it. I didn't write this. Well, the CDC. Regularly taking vitamin C slightly reduces the length and severity of common cold symptoms, although the effect is so minimal that the usefulness of this is in doubt. High doses of vitamin C started after the onset of cold symptoms showed no consistent effect on severity or length of symptoms. More research is required to clarify the use of this vitamin. Well, all I got to say is this, according to your faith be it done. The placebo effect has been proven. The mind can outdo any virus. I digress. There are no trials of sufficient quality to support the use of Chinese medical herbs for the treatment of the common cold. Further research is required. I don't know. They've been at it for a long time in China. I think they know something. Now let's talk about the flu, all right? Because we've got to put this in perspective. Flu, influenza, can be caused by different strains called A, B, and C. The majority of diseases in Australia are caused by A and B. Influenza A can be found in many species, while influenza B is essentially a human disease. Only influenza A is known to have caused influenza pandemics. It is estimated that each year, influenza causes on average of 13,500 hospitalizations, and more than 3,000 deaths among Australians aged over 50 years, which suggests more than double the number of deaths from motor vehicle accidents can be attributed to the complications from influenza. The highest rates of hospitalization are seen in children under 5 and the elderly. The highest rates of hospitalization are seen in children under 5 and the elderly, people with chronic conditions such as asthma, chronic lung disease, heart disease, blood disorders, liver and kidney disorders, endocrine disorders, and obesity are more likely to develop complications from the flu. There have been 3 influenza pandemics in the 20th century. The 1918 Spanish flu, the 1957-58 Asian flu, and the 1968-70 Hong Kong flu. There have been 1 flu pandemic so far in the 21st century. In 2009, from the H1N1 influenza virus. It was also known as the swine flu. All right, we've looked at the facts. The numbers, when compared side by side, this makes no sense. So please tell me, where is the emergency? Why the panic from news media? I mean, what's really going on here? There is no evidence, none of any future pandemic. None. This doesn't make sense. So why all the hype? Why not showing the truth? It's not that difficult. Why no facts about the flu? Why no facts about the common cold? Just spreading fear. And why spread half-truths and lies? Read these articles, and that's all it is. It's the biggest pile of crap. And it is a crock of shit. What is being spewed out by these so-called reputable news media, and then it spreads to all YouTube. The crazy crap and conspiracy you start hearing about. No one does any facts. And what you get is hoarding, shortages, future rationing. It's coming. And what is next? And this is all over what? So exactly what is this coronavirus? The only way that this can be anything to be concerned about other than a cold is that it has been genetically modified. And if the United States government knows this, in any department, you have a legal obligation to disclose this to the American public. So what exactly is this coronavirus? It makes no sense. Nothing about this makes any sense. I ask you, because if you sat through this, do your own freaking fact checking. You're going to get the same facts that I got. CDC.gov. Go and do your own homework and go to the other references that they put in there. Because this doesn't make sense. Medically, clinically, no way. And look at the economic damage it's doing. And folks, we're just at the front of the train wreck. The momentum is just going to continue to push. Now, I want to know, what is the end game here? There's got to be one. I've never seen anything like this in my lifetime. Never. And I don't know why. It makes no sense. Someone earlier put in numbers that were just, you can't fact check them. You can't have this hysteria. It begins to form psychosis. And social media is the biggest spreader of social psychosis in individuals. And then they begin to act this out in their everyday lives. Panic. I was out about this weekend and I could not get over. That's why we're doing this. I had a complete different topic I was going to cover, but can't ignore it. Everybody's talking about it, and there's no facts to it. I just walked away shaking my head. Lynn and I just going, people are bat crap crazy. And this is how it's spreading. Costco out of toilet paper. And I dare say, in many places, you're going to start seeing the shortages. They're already here. And if you look on MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, the Drudge Report, the rest of them, it's all freaking hype. How dare you, Drudge Report? You're a disgrace to what you're doing. You're spreading this fear, this violence, which is going to be the result when people begin to realize the shortages are here. Then you're going to start seeing panic. And all that I have seen over this weekend has done nothing but instill the fear of panic. And it's based on nothing. And all I'm trying to do here is talk common sense. Get you calmed down. You will get sick if you stay at this hyper level, this fear factor. If you let this insidious message get into your consciousness, it's going to contaminate your soul. And no matter how far you think you're evolved or ascending, it's going to slam you back down. Now, if you approach it and say, well, this is no different than the common cold. So what? Unless it has been genetically modified. All bets are off on that one, because that one will ensure everything I just discussed in the last two slides will in fact happen. But I'm not going to sit here and add to this fear. No, there's no need to. I'm a healthy adult. Good looking guy too, but and my soul is strong. I'm not going to get my panties in a wad over this. Get all bent out of shape, start letting the energy start becoming imbalanced. Next thing you know, you're bitching at this person, you're bitching because this is going on, and you're so full of the hate now because so much fear is in the background. Yeah, I said hate because you think about this. When you start hoarding, that's exactly what you're doing. You're hating your fellow man. Oh, well, no, this is about survival, Wayne. No. No, you fell into the trap. You're part of the problem. We got to stop it, folks. This is insane. And again, if they're not telling us the truth, then you've got this unknown factor. But there's enough medical evidence, history, proven science, not theory, not hypothesis. The fact that you and I are human, we're flawed, all of us are. And we all know what it's like to get the flu. I remember in 1975, oh man, I was about to go in the Coast Guard, and I got the flu, and I want to tell you what, past the opportunity, but I was sick. Y'all know what it's like. I've had different versions of the rhinovirus where, severe headaches. Remember, particularly in the 80s. And I mean, it was just an intense headache. Now, I've had meningitis and Lyme disease. It was like a cocktail, but now that's a headache. But seeing this. And, we do die from these infections. It's just the nature of things. No one really knows a person's physiology. Most of us don't know our physiology. We try to get, the blood pressure and everything else and make sure that, the blood work looks good and etc. But, hey. And if you do get infected with a cold or even the flu, fearing about it isn't, as it's not going to do you a bit of good, sunshine. It's just going to make you feel worse. Whereas if you just suck it up, cupcake, and go, all right, I'm on this ride, if it's the influenza, well, I got another 10 days of this sunshine in my life. If you got a cold, the rhinovirus, even the coronavirus, there's many different variants of coronavirus. So you're going to ride the dragon for about 3 days. What's the big deal? Are they going to, do they tell you when you go to your pharmacist and go, I got a cold. Oh my God, you got a cold? Well, I got to get the mask and I need the hazmat suits now. Really? And this is where we've gotten to this. Unless it's been genetically, man-made, altered. Which government did it? What is it that they're not telling us? Because it makes no common sense. 2 deaths and a population of 327 million people. Less than 2 dozen people with the infection. Okay. You can go to any daycare center and get those numbers easily. Well, Mr. Steiger, this is the coronavirus. Yeah, I know. That's what I'm talking about. It is in the same variant of the rhinovirus, correct? Well, now you're just trying to get, I'm getting factual. I know. Let's talk about this. So what's going on? Is there a genetic mutation here that this virus has been manipulated? Is that why all the news stations are going back crap crazy? Why all of you journalists who are not supposedly journalists are apparently just hacks couldn't get a job at the National Enquirer? You can't simply do some fact checking? Well, no, because then everyone's going to start becoming more reasonable. Yeah, they are. And you're going to have to fill your time slot with something else. And Will, I'm not saying anything about if there is an infection in that. Don't take this into specifics. I am addressing specifically this false narrative that has been spewed on the American airways this weekend and continues even as I speak. There are instances. Listen, when I was in the hospital, I was in a hazmat room. They came in with the breathing apparatus and the whole body suits. I know what I'm talking about here. That's an infectious disease. And I can't make any rational sense out of the numbers. Brandy, you're absolutely right. So that was my public service for today. I don't know what's going on. Don't profess to know. But I approach things with my spirit guiding me, common sense. And my mind works in what's a beautiful place. By the way, Miss Karen, I was in a very interested place in the astral. I was actually in a class where I know two individuals very much were also in there, but I felt a third presence from behind me. But anyway, I digress. And I began to see this. I was out and about. My wife and I, we had things we had to do. And everywhere we went, listening, if it was in a restaurant, everyone was talking about this. And not in one conversation did we hear anyone countering with facts. It was all fear porn, ratcheted up. I mean, if this was to be physically transmuted, you would see men, everyone walking with a Woody, and you women walking with bow-legged. I mean, that is what was the metaphor you can imagine. And listen, we're going to discuss this week. We got special guests coming on. Going to be a week of special guests. But there was something else we're going to talk about in depth. Hear me out on this. So I saw 4 different movies and a new series, which, by the way, give out a shout out to the Epic Network that is doing the series War of the Worlds. Well worth watching. So I watched a Nicolas Cage movie, Color Outside of Space. Now, I can get why Nicolas Cage is doing some of these movies. He went bankrupt and he's having to rebuild what he lost. Get that. But this script was very unusual. Again, well worth watching. I recommend you watch The Alien Code again. The point that I'm getting to all of these things that I have watched within the last 4 days all had a common theme. It appears that the message that is being transmitted via the television machine, are we being prepared for an alien invasion? I did a video last year in which I proposed my hypothesis that the Earth was being terraformed for a new occupant. Is this coronavirus somehow connected to that agenda? Is there an alien agenda to this coronavirus? Because you begin to look at this from a certain perspective, and you begin to compartmentalize. This is how my mind, every chaos has a situation where you can compartmentalize the chaos. Still chaos, but the point is this, what is the agenda tied to this? Because there is an agenda. I mean, when you strip the financial markets worldwide, ladies and gentlemen, from the massacre last week on Wall Street, stripping nearly $40 trillion. Now, granted, it was already up there to begin with, but still, you evaporate that type of wealth that quickly, it's going to hurt. Now, I'm hoping I know people on Wall Street, brokers that listen to me. I hope you will begin to start talking common sense. Listen, if you have the opportunity, this is a great buy-in. But I dare say, but what I saw at the big box stores over the weekend, it's already started, the panic, the hoarding. And I hope that does not spread. I really don't. But I'm not going to take any bets that the nightly news is going to correct their path. I hope the censors that watch this will agree that this is a common sense message. Let's balance out the facts for all of us. We're all impacted by this. And ladies, when you run out of toilet paper, you know that is not a good day. Do I speak truth or do I speak truth? And guys, it ain't much better when you take the old proverbial break. The small things in life suddenly become very important. I'm just saying. Yes, someone says, who was that? Deep thoughts. That's true. Home invasions because of toilet paper. Listen, it's already showing up in black markets. I mean, who would have thought Costco would have run out of toilet paper? I mean, that's their big seller. That's why we have a Costco membership. And, Sam's, I mean, we you want to buy that in bulk because you're paying out of the ass at the local grocery store. And I know you ladies, you like an ample supply of TP. It gets real personal, doesn't it? It's like, oh, yeah. Folks, we got to laugh. We have to be the ones that, as I told a couple of elderly people, it's all right. It's not this bad. It's okay. This is nothing more than the common cold. Unless it's been genetically modified. I didn't tell them that because they were in fear. And as an empath, we know we can fear that. That's why I don't go out in public very much. But the fear is tangible in some cases, and it's growing. And we've got to counter this, folks. That's all I got to say. That's all I got to say. All right. Well, I've said enough already, haven't you? Well, tomorrow I got Miss Trina on. We're going to already got the topic. It's going to be fun. But these are the things we need to talk about. And I think we need to get more in tune. Well, thank you, David. Listen, I wish I should have recorded this, but I did not. I was going to say, please share this. Share this video with everybody because, folks, we've got to stop the fear. If it's something bad, then tell us. But if this is for another agenda, this sucks. And it is a crock of poo. Shit. Store high in transit. That's what I think that word originally came from. Did you know that? In love. Folks, you can't get angry nowadays, no matter what. If you're not walking in the love frequency, that favor flavor, then you're going to be susceptible to these waves. And they're parasitic. Once they can lock in to your consciousness, it's hard to get rid of those parasites. And they exist. Someone said about the cruise ships. Well, let me tell you something. Have you ever heard of the norovirus that's on cruise ships? Yeah. You know what? Those who have suffered from the norovirus on a cruise ship, you know what I'm talking about. It spreads like, how should we say, a wave. Well, why aren't we talking about that? I mean, it's a communicable disease, folks. What happens? I just went through a whole presentation and showing you how it happens. So don't think that just because they announce on the news media 2 people have the case of coronavirus on a cruise ship. I'm surprised they don't have more. But it's no pandemic, no different than the norovirus or any other of the virants that you will find on cruise ships. Happens. Watch the shrimp. But anyway, someone says the West Nile virus. Well, we live up here in Colorado, and if the mosquitoes are bad, people are going to get the West Nile virus. They're going to die. Some people die from that. You don't hear about that, though, do you? Good point, Eric Green. So, folks, put this in perspective. We have to be the ambassadors of calming the consciousness of what's going on here. That's your job now, is to calm people down. Tell them to turn the damn television off. Stop going to the news sites until the news sites begin to become responsible journalists again. I saw, I watched one journalist who had the perfect opportunity to have said to counter it, but no, because the producer of the news program loves the hype. When they could have said, well, folks, we have to look at this thing, on the facts. And you could have gone in less than a 15-second point that influenza and rhinovirus, and by the way, you most likely have had coronavirus. No. All right, I've had enough. Tomorrow, the Miss Beautiful Trina will be with me. Wednesday, Karen. Friday, Orly will be on. She is a remarkable witch, has written a book. Fascinating read. You're going to learn a little bit of something. She is a practicing witch, which means wise woman. And Saturday night, we will have, I think it's 6. I'll have to make sure, but we have the 32nd degree Freemason on. So yeah. Yeah. So it's going to be fun. And folks, it's okay. We're going to be fine. No matter what, we're going to be fine. And I appreciate every one of you. Some beautiful, beautiful souls here. And I thank you for being a part of my life. And I hope I've imparted something to you today as a gift that's saying it's going to be okay. We have favor upon our lives, and we're going to make it. We're going to be talking about healing frequencies with Miss Trina tomorrow. I got something from China that is so beautiful. We'll be sharing that. All right, folks. I'll see you tomorrow. Much love, peace, and, keep calm. All right. Bye.